wait for that agreement. I'll be in touch with you soon to start your trial membership. Thank you.
Congratulations one more time, Ruben! So we're going to get started here. Actually, right now, I'm going to go ahead and ask her if, thank you. Where's my lovely young assistant? There she is. Dim the lights. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Peak Performance Partners. I might as well.
Now I'm going to introduce you to Now I get to introduce you to Peak Performance Partners. We're a company that has executives with over 200 years of combined experience, working for publicly traded companies such as Verizon, AT&T, and Wyndham Resorts, helping them drive millions in annual sales and creating efficiencies, which, you know, creates greater profits. We've also worked for privately owned companies, helping startup divisions within these companies achieve over $100 million in annual revenues. We've also, each of us, have owned our own companies. Not only do we know what it's like to sign the back of a check, we also know what it's like to sign the front of a check. And that is why we teamed up with the Alternative Board Worldwide, or as we like to call it, TAB. TAB is an organization that is in over 23 countries. It's been around for 30 years, helping business owners and business leaders achieve their ultimate dream. What we do is we put together peer advisory boards made up of business executives from non-competing industries, where we meet once a month and we talk about challenges and opportunities. And then we help each other by going from our background and giving collective wisdom. Can you imagine having 250 to 300 years of experience helping you as you're making decisions? Some of the topics that often come up in some of the boards are this: employee development, new markets, growth strategies, cash flow issues, and legal matters. Guess what? All organizations have these. In addition to the board meetings where we meet once a month, we also do coaching. This is where we come one-on-one with you and your organization. We talk about a great plan for yourself. What is your mission? What's your vision? What's the culture? And what's your brand promise? In addition to the Alternative Board, we also have a consulting division. This is where we come in and do a deeper dive with you and your organization. What we do is we're going to create a gap analysis. We're going to see where's the place that we can spend the least amount of time to make the greatest impact. We're going to look at marketing. We're going to look at your sales process. We like to follow the client through the journey of how did they get to know about you, and then how did they become a client, and then how was their journey? Are there any gaps in that process that we can make better to make them happier, generating higher revenue and greater profits? A lot of times this will include leadership development. We have a great plan where we come in and help your team become more accountable and make sure that they're following up, making sure that the meetings that they're attending are meaningful. Then we'll start to review the financials. Helping business owners identify blind spots within themselves and their organization, that is what we enjoy. I'd also like to invite you to tune into our Are You Killing It podcast. This is where we talk to local business owners and find out what are some secrets to how they're killing it. Our goal is to provide an environment for business leaders and owners to connect with new people, reconnect with old friends, and get information from industry experts. We also have a video production team. Does your company have its own video? Something that explains your product or service in such a high professional manner that everybody's going to want to do business with you? Have you ever thought about employee onboarding and doing training videos? What's so important about a training video is, guess what? You get to control the environment and the message that all your new employees are saying. We love being a part of this business community. Industry leading. Have you ever thought about that term? One of the things we do is we help companies identify what are industry leading companies and how did they become that. What I want to encourage you to do is this: don't go alone. Use our 200 years of collective experience to help you and your organization. There's an African proverb that we often refer to. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Please, this business community is made up of companies that are killing it because they're going together. I want you to be one of those. Come join us.
so tonight we are going to be covering a few of those timeless principles of exceptional business. There are books throughout the room tonight. There are books on the front table when you checked in. This is our gift to you tonight. Thank you so much for coming and spending a little bit of time with us. Please take this with you. And tonight you're going to learn some pretty amazing things. Patrick is an incredible leader in this business community. He's actually had many of his own businesses, also worked for 3 self-made billionaires, and took the vision of that company from 0 to $110 million in 10 years. This man knows a thing or two about leadership, about coaching, about building teams, and he has a huge heart and passion to help people succeed. So with that said, my partner, Patrick Stewart.
Nice. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate it. All right. Welcome. All right, it's good to see everybody. Yeah, I had a few people ask, hey, what exactly do you guys do? So I'm going to run through this quickly, so stay with me. First off, here's our team. We kind of showed it real quick in the video. But probably the beginning of the story was my man Kevin. Come on up here, Kev, real quick, so they can all look at this. All right, there we go. Can you see it? So that was 26 years ago. I met Kevin Hernandez. I was working for a publicly held company. We took over a resort, and I come into the kitchen, and again, I was 25, so I knew everything. Kev, what did I say?
Kevin Calvary's here. I wanted to throw on.
But then Kevin and we worked really hard with that organization. One of our first adventures we went into, we owned a boat together. And I tell people, I go, if you can own a boat with somebody and still remain friends, that's who you become a partner with. But that was 26 years ago. But what we're going to be we'll go through real quick what the alternative board is. What we do is we put business advisories, we put business owners from non-competing industries in groups of anywhere from 5 to 10, and we become each other's board of directors. We had a board meeting today. There's a couple, actually, Dennis was in that board meeting today. We've got a couple of people here that are part of our group, we want to kind of explain to you why it's important, right? So what we do is we meet once a month where we have an intentional board meeting. We're going to talk about, we're going to go through a quick SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, wins from the last 30 days, emerging threats, emerging opportunities, just to we can get an understanding. And then in each board meeting, everybody's going to bring a topic in there, something that's really where they're struggling in their business, or maybe where they need help, or where they want some other insights. They present that to the group, and we go through a really organized, defined system that then what they're able to do is get suggestions and recommendations from these other people with different backgrounds, different education levels, different industries. A lot of time what we find is this: what's a challenge in one industry has been solved in another industry. They just don't cross-pollinate. Well, that's what we do. They cross-pollinate in our groups. Then what we do is in between board meetings, that's when we come one by one and we do a one-on-one coaching. If you've ever, sometimes people will bring in maybe a consultant, and that consultant, we always laugh. Sometimes a lot of clients, we come in, they've had a consultant, and they end up with this big, thick 3-ring binder. And I'd say it starts, they leave it along with the bill, and then that 3-ring binder goes behind the shelf, and then it goes usually, under the desk, and then in a box, and then it's gone. We're a little bit different. Because of the way this is designed, we come alongside. Not only do we come up with a game plan, but then every month we're coming in and doing a one-to-one coaching. We're coming alongside the business owner and really diving deep and finding out, hey, what is it that's stopping you from going to the next level? And what is that next step? What's the next phase? Ricky said that I was part of an organization. I worked for 3 self-made billionaires, and it was they were a resort developer and land developers in Mexico. 2 of them came from poor Mexico, and the other one was a blue-collar guy from from Providence, Rhode Island. Some of the lessons that they taught me was this: hey, you don't want to go alone, right? You're going to need help in order to get there, but also never give up. And so what we're going to do is this: we're going to talk about another one of the things you get with the alternative board. We have some proprietary tools to get to a set of. But this is what we're going to be talking about today. And there's a little worksheet. So if you guys want to grab one of these and write some things down, Hopefully there's some noteworthy things, but if not, grab one. We also will be filming this. You can pick it up on YouTube. You can watch the video. But what this is on the 25th anniversary of the Alternative Board, they went around and they asked some of the business owners. They said, hey, what were some of the things that are so dynamic? So they took the top 25 and they put them down in this book, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to start with this. Raise your hand in here if you have a red rose. Or if you know what a red rose is, right? We know what a red rose is. We got one guy that says he's got a red rose. Here's what we're referring to. We're talking about a differentiator in your business. What sets you aside? When we start working with business owners, one of the things that we always say, hey, what's the difference between you and your competitors? And they'll say stuff like, well, I'm honest. Well, I say what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, what do you think the competitors say? They say the exact same thing. They all say it, right? Not that they necessarily do it, but that's what they say. That's not a differentiator. So I want to tell you this story about the differentiator, the red rose. So there was if anybody's from Florida, they have palmetto bugs. If you're not from Florida, what they are is gigantic roaches. Okay, and so he's shaking his head. He's like, yeah, they are. So what happened was somebody had a lady came in and her house was infested with palmetto bugs. So she went through the yellow pages. Kevin, I said it, gave one up to the yellow pages. He always is like, it's still around, it's still around. Kevin, just so everybody knows, Kevin was the number one yellow page salesman for Verizon for 5 years running. So, and they aren't still around. But anyways, she went through the yellow pages and she found pest control. So she called up the number. They came out. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. They showed up on time. They did a great job. They were very friendly. They took care of the problem, and then they left. If anybody knows anything about pest and pest control, typically after some while, it's going to go away and they're going to come back. Well, guess what? Same thing happened. They came back. But she's like, man, I don't remember who it was that came. What was the name of that company? I forgot. So she went through the yellow pages, and I get paid like $100 every time I use the yellow page word. I'm up to 7. So the thing is she couldn't remember who it was that she talked to. So she called the next company, and they came out. They did the exact same thing. Guy was very friendly, came out, he did exactly what he said he was going to do, treated it, and then he left. And he said, thank you so much. And when she got back, on the kitchen table was a red rose and a handwritten note. And that handwritten note said, ma'am, I'm sorry that we had to come out, but that is what we do. And if there's ever anything, if they come back, please don't hesitate to call us. We have a 30-day guarantee, and we appreciate your business. Thank you so much. And guess what? Do you think she ever forgot about that name? In fact, she never forgot about that name. Not only that name, she told one of the people in our group, and it ended up in the book, right? So we're talking about differentiators, and we want to talk about how do you find your red rose? Okay, so the first thing you need to do is this. You need to know your competitors. What are your competitors doing? What is your competitive advantage, and what is your differentiator? And we worked a little while with a German up in Reno, and he would say, my say-do ratio. I have a high say-do ratio. And I'm like, that's good, let's go with that one. But what you need to do is this. You need to identify some signature elements of your offering. What sets you apart? How do you become memorable? Okay, what is it that you're doing with the client that sets you apart from your competitors? I don't know if you guys know, but Ann Johnson's been part of our group, Spark Flight Studios. They're an architect here in town. I want to give you the example of Ann. When we first met Ann, we said, hey, Ann, tell us what you do. And she was like, well, I'm an architect. And, she would explain that. And what we did is we instantly started working on her elevator pitch, right? Her 90-second commercial. And we're like, Ann, that doesn't move us. You're an architect, and what sets you apart? So we started working on her storytelling. And the thing is one of the things that she doesn't just design, she really likes to put art into her designs, into interiors, and make places that are fun to work at or fun to be at. So she was explaining to us one of these projects that she had, and it was a dance studio. And she talked about this, it had been around for years, so she talked about this tree that she built inside the wall where they would put their their shoes. And then she had like a little private nook that came in where, hey, this is where the kids can take off their ballet shoes or their dance shoes. And when she opened the door to this new facility, the kids ran in and they ran right over to this tree, and they were just like, they were amazed at it, these shelves. And as Ann was talking about that, we were like, Ann, that's the deal, because all of a sudden she was telling the story, she lit up, right? She got excited. She was telling the story, and she told us, again, not what she did, right, but how it made her clients feel. And that was her differentiator. So we tied that into her elevator pitch. And you know that show, what's the where they say, move my bus, and they move it over, right? We're like, Ann, you have that move my bus moment, right? That's what you want to have. So once we started to work with her on that, and then all of a sudden, guess what? She started getting those jobs that she really liked doing, that involved art, and started doing more public artworks. And if you're ever down on Water Street, if you go in and you see some of the new, like the new gates that are there on Water Street that they closed at Lifeguard Arena, Ann actually designed those, and she did a lot of the work around Lifeguard Arena. So let me ask you guys this question. What if you could find customers who are indifferent to cost, quality, or convenience, who buy repeatedly from you, and who voluntarily raved to their friends and colleagues about your product or service? Who would like that? Raise your hand if you'd like that, right? We call those raving fans, right? And we all have them. Guess what? Do you know how you find your raving fans? That's through, is anybody familiar with the Net Promoter Score? Okay, the Net Promoter Score, if you do any kind of surveying for clients, you need to include the Net Promoter Score in there. And the Net Promoter Score is simply this. On a scale of 1 to 10, would you refer me to a friend, or would you refer me as another customer? Okay? And here's the thing. If they score a 9 or a 10, they're a promoter. Okay? If they score a 7 or 8, they're passive. And if they score 6 or below, they're a detractor. Now, does that mean that they're out talking smack about you? Not necessarily, but guess what? They're not promoting you. Right? And that's what we want to find. We want to develop raving fans. But the question is this. Why do you think most people don't do this? Why don't they ask? They're scared. They're scared. They don't want the answer, right? They don't want the answer. And that's one of the things that we start to go, hey, we need to know. We need to know this. So when you do a survey, make sure that you include this in your survey as one of your questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, would you service me? The next thing is this. Who's familiar with Simon Sinek's Why, the book, the story? Okay? If you're not, what I want you to do, I want to encourage you, go on YouTube and watch this. It will blow you away. Because here's what happens is this. As you're going in and trying to explain your business, most people start with their features. They start with what they do. Hey, this is what my business does. It does this, it does this, it does this, right? If I'll just choose somebody out here, you know, we've got some solar guys, right? So the features of solar, right? Hey, it's going to save you money. It's going to be good for the environment. You're going to have reusable energy. Those are the features that happen, right? You're going to be able to control your cost, okay? But that's not why people do business with you, okay? They do it for the benefits, right? The features is what your business does. The benefit is what it does for the individual. And here's one thing that we always find. So it's not about the how or the what, and that's where most people start talking about when they're introducing their companies. You need to start talking about the why. And you need to make sure that all of your employees understand, what is your why? Why is your organization so much better? And with that, what we want to do is this. Well, I'm going to give you guys a couple. Does anybody know what this company is? Move the way you want. Anybody? We've all heard of this company. Uber, right? So that's their why. Their why is we want you to move the way you want to. What about this company? Tom's. Anybody familiar with Tom's? So what Tom's does, if you buy a set of Tom's shoes, they will donate a pair to somebody who doesn't have shoes. That is their why. When you're looking at a business, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like you're planting it, right? And you're watching it grow and you're watching it develop. One of the things that we always like to talk about is this. Is it by design or by default? Are you going out and taking the time, again, another cliche we say is, right, working on your business, not working in your business. But what happens is it's so important that as you start to grow your business, that it's by design, you're designing that. And with that is this. Again, as you're telling your story, how do people how are they going to remember you? Part of that is this. It's through storytelling. People are going to remember things. You guys are going to remember that red rose story forever. You will. You're going to be like, oh yeah, the red rose. Some people tell me, oh, you're the red rose guy. I'm like, really? I said it one time. I told you the story 15 years ago. But the thing is so how do you create your own story? That's the thing that you need to start working on. And it really is this, hey, once upon a time, and you tell your story, and then you're telling the benefits of your story and of your business. So the value of a strong brand. A brand and brand promise. Jeff Bezos says this, your brand is formed primarily not by what your company says about itself, but what the company does. And your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And if you guys have listened to any of Jeff Bezos' stuff, I mean, we can argue, where he's at, but one of the things that guy does is he cares about his brand. And he cares about his client's journey, and he's always looking, how do I improve that relationship? I used to sell a bunch of products on Amazon, right? And so one of the times I had a new product and it couldn't get listed, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So a girl I was working with, she's like, oh, I was on this chat thing, and there's this, they said, this is the one guy in Amazon that'll take care of everything. I'm like, all right, cool. She goes, let me send you his email. It's like, all right, send me the email. So I send the email back. I send the email and I send it out. Literally the next day I get an email back, and it was from the office of Jeff Bezos. Okay? That's how much he cares. And the email was jeff@amazon.com. So I kind of, after I saw it, so I call her, I go, do you know whose email you gave me? I go, you gave me Jeff Bezos. And so not only did I get a return on that, not from him, one of his assistants, the desk of, however, that problem that we had was fixed the next day. Our product was up and being sold. But here's what we did. We went out and we asked some of our business owners that had sold their business. And we asked them this, where do you wish you would have spent more time, effort, and money? And this is what 32% of them said, brand building. Okay? Even over advertising, even over PR, 32% said we wish we would have spent more money building our brand. But let me ask you this. A lot of people that we talk, we go, well, brand is our logo, right? And we've had several brand people come in and talk. Howard Lim was one of them, Bill West from Bare Knuckle Branding. And so they've kind of have shown people, hey, what a brand is and why a brand is so important. But the value of organizations, we help people build their brands because here's what happens. You can multiply the value of your business if you work on the brand in the industry and in your marketplace. So when you go to exit, that's why they say we wish we would have spent more time building that brand. So strong value equals strong brand. People don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. Again, back to that. Don't tell me, right? Don't tell me what it does. Give me what is the benefit of your product? If a brand is a promise, then a great brand is a promise kept. Coca-Cola. So here's some tips to building a good brand. First off, you want to start with the value of your product or service that it delivers. Then you want to identify your differentiator. What makes you different from your competitors? You want to make a brand promise and communicate it through stories. Okay? And you want your whole organization, everybody in your company should be able to explain what your brand promise is. And the last one is this. Keep your promise and exceed your customer's expectation. Say-do ratio. Keep that high. And when you see somebody in your organization that isn't keeping it high, address that as fast as you can. Great companies, there's no gap between seeing somebody do something wrong and them acting on it. Great organizations, that's how they're built. And it starts at the top. These are just some brands, again, that we all recognize. Now, who in here has core values? Who in here has a culture in their organization? Raise your hand if you got a culture, right? You got probably a culture and then maybe some subcultures, and then maybe some subcultures, right? And we always say this, is it by design or is it by default? Did you sit down and design, hey, this is what our company culture is, or did it just over time, it's evolved and this is what the company culture is? And this is something that we talk a lot about with our groups. And we work with one company here in Vegas. He's been around for 25 years, and it's a great company. But we started working on this foundation. We call it the foundation. We call it your vision, your mission, your brand, right? Your brand promise, your culture, your values. That's the foundation of any organization. If it's a great foundation, you can build a tower on it. Okay? But the thing is we started talking to him and we said, and we started going through this process, and he goes, yeah, but I've been in business for 25 years and I think I've got a pretty good company. And we're like, you got an amazing company. Absolutely you do. But just think when people come in and they see what your values are, your core values, they understand because they understand that, hey, we're a family company. We treat each other like a family. And what does that mean? I go, some people, I mean, I'm the youngest of 7. So sometimes you won't want to hear the way I talk to my sister. But the thing is this, it starts with the leader, right? And you know how you find a leader? I'll never forget this. There was a pastor, and he'd always say this, yeah, people come up to me and go, Pastor so-and-so, I want to be a leader. I want to be a leader. I'm a leader. I want to be a leader. And he's like, look behind you. He's like, what do you mean? Is anybody following you? If nobody's following you, you might not be a leader. But the thing is leaders, guess what? People are going to follow you, and they're always watching. They're always watching everything you do, right? They're going to do what you're going to do. You can't say I'm doing one thing and then do something else, and then go, yeah, but I'm the leader. They know better. Everybody, I think, knows who this is Mahatma Gandhi, and this is a great story. So somebody brought a lady from a village had traveled a long ways and brought her son in, and she's like, Father, I need you to talk to my son. He's just, all he does is he eats candy all the time and sugar. He won't listen to me at all. And so Mahatma Gandhi said, you know what? If you don't mind, will you come back in 2 weeks? And she's like, okay. So she left, and it was quite a travel that she had to go to get there. So 2 weeks later, here she comes back in, and she says, you know, again, my son, he keeps eating sugar all the time, and he won't eat any good food. He won't eat his vegetables. Can you please tell him? And he said, son, listen, you need to eat right because you need to provide. You need to be strong. You need to grow. And so he said, okay, yes, Father, I will. Give me your word. He said, I give it to you. And so as he's leaving, and she turned around, she came back. Why couldn't you have done that 2 weeks ago? And he simply said this. At that time, I was struggling myself with eating too much candy, and I couldn't tell him to stop eating too much candy. But that's the thing as a leader. Let me ask you guys this. Which one of these do you have control over? Time, money, or people? Anybody? People? Time? Oh, he says all of them. I like that. All of them. That's the New Yorkers. All of them. That's right. Now, the reality is this. The one thing that you have total control over is time, okay? And it's the one thing that you only have so much of, right? So how do you create more time, right? How do you work as a business owner? I mean, raise your hand if you're wearing a bunch of hats as a business owner. Bunch of hats and life's crazy, right? And you're not sure, how do I do all this stuff? How do these... Again, Jeff Bezos. How does this guy go from his garage, right? Because you know when he first started, he was going out and buying books and then shipping books and to where he is now, right? Here's the thing. There's only 3 ways to control time. You gotta do one of 3 things. You either gotta delegate, automate, or eliminate. You heard it today. That's what you got to do. That's the only three things you do. And I'll tell you guys a quick story. We had an executive, and he was working with us, and it was like one of the very first coaching sessions. And I said, all right, let's talk about your time. Right? Let's talk about your platinum activity. The platinum activity is this. It's the one activity you do that brings the most value to the organization. So anyways, I said, tell me about your time. And he goes, man, I come in, I start at 7:30, and then I end at 6. And then I go home and I eat, and sometimes I got to come back to the office. And so we started talking. I go, okay, well, tell me, what do you do when you first come in? So we did a little time study with him. And what we found is he'd have to do the same report every morning. Comes in, does the same report. It's like, well, that's repeatable. Anything that's repeatable, we can train somebody to do. And you have an assistant, she sits right out front. Why don't we train her to do that? He goes, oh, I've tried, she can't do it. I'm like, okay. I go, how long does it take you to do the report? He goes, it only takes me 15 minutes. I go, okay, 15 minutes a day? He goes, yeah, 15 minutes a day. It's the first thing I do every day. I said, okay, I'm going to teach you something here about time. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to teach her how to do this job. Because you said it's repeatable, right? Yes. I said, all right, perfect. So I came in. It took me a couple of days to get her trained on how to do this report. But she got to where she was really efficient at it. So I went to him. I said, all right, so you're good? He goes, yeah. And I go, so I got you that 15 minutes back, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, let me explain to you what I really got back to you. Okay, 15 minutes times 5 days a week. It's 2.5 hours a week. 2.5 hours a week, let's just call it 50. That's 100 hours. I bought him back 100 hours in a year. Okay, and then what I did is I said this, now here's what we got to do. You got to take half that time, you go on vacation or go do whatever you want. The other half, you got to be in your platinum activity. What is my platinum activity? I go, what is the thing that you do that brings the most value to the organization? We were in a board one time and we had an attorney in there, and the attorney goes, hey, I got to go. I got to leave early. We go, why? And I got to go pick somebody up at the airport. We're like, what? You got to go pick somebody at the airport? I thought you charged like $3.50 an hour. He goes, yeah, I do. We're like, dude, you can get a nice car to pick them up for like $150. And it's going to take you, you're going to have to drive over there. You're going to have to wait. And then you have to find him. And then you're going to have to get ready and come back. And we're like, go and get somebody to do that. And then go spend the time that you would go and take him to the airport and go do something in your platinum activity. So he decided to do that. And we said, now track this. And what is your platinum activity? He goes, I have a list, a hot list that I need to get a hold of. These are prospective clients that I can get a hold of. So he went back and he did that. And he came back in the next board meeting. And guess what? He closed one of the deals he'd been working on. And then we go, dude, you would have been driving like an Uber driver, right? But instead, he was able to lock down a big deal. But what happens as owners is we do that. We get caught up in this because you know why? We don't think about it. We just go, it's just down in the airport. I'm just picking him up, and then I got to take him to his hotel, and then we'll drop him off, and then I'll come back to the office, and then I'll meet him up for dinner later on. We do that things all the time. You know why? Because we haven't established what is our to-don't list. What's our to-don't list? And this is the thing. This is the paradigm shift that you got to be looking at. You got to start tracking. When are you working below your pay grade? When are you working below your pay grade? Okay, and what does that look like? What activities are you doing that you could spend more time in the zone, really bringing more value to the organization? One of the things I've been doing forever is I take all the checks to the bank. Right, Alexis? I take them all to the bank. So last week I was up in Reno and checks came in. I go, hey, Alexis, can you take them to the bank? She goes, yeah. I go, all right, perfect. And I was like, actually, I guess I don't have to take all the checks to the bank, do I? She could easily do that, right? So then, and I talked to her and I go, it was a trust, and not a trust that I trust that she's going to do. It's just something goofy about me. But then what I started doing is really tracking my time and going, dude, instead of going and spending that, it's only 15 minutes. Yeah, exactly what I said to you about that client. But let me ask you this, Alexis. Since I've had you taking the checks to the bank, are we taking more checks to the bank? Imagine that. Imagine that. Right? Is that a weird concept, right? Now I'm in my zone, getting more clients, right? Working more on other people's businesses, helping them out, working on my consulting clients, and guess what? Our organization is better off because of it. So you need to create your to-don't list. Okay? And then the next thing you need to do, rework your schedule. What is your prime time? Are you a morning guy? Are you an evening guy? Right? I'm kind of, no, I'm just kidding. I'm more of a morning person. I mean, my energy's up in the morning, right? So start blocking out your time. Start saying, hey, all right, this is my, we call it the open door policy. This is your permission for the closed door policy. Close that door, right? If you ever listen to any of Darren Hardy's stuff, right? He talks about activity versus productivity, right? And again, you can listen to some of his things and it's amazing. But set up your own prime time and say, hey, in this zone, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my platinum activity, the activity that brings the most business to the organization, and nothing's going to stop me from doing that. Do that for 1 week and watch what happens. And here's what it is. There's a simple formula, right? Additional hours in my platinum activity times your hourly rate will equal your unrealized value to your business. Now, strategy. Has anybody ever played chess against somebody that's just amazing at chess? Or really anything, any kind of sport or anything where you play maybe golf and you go play I played with a guy that was on the Nike tour for a while. And I was just like, dude, you don't miss. I mean, when he's 80 yards or in, it's up and down every time. And I'll never forget, he two-putted one time, he goes, there's my round. I go, there's your round? Dude, we'll switch scores. Give me that. But the thing is strategy. How much time do you spend really in that strategy moment, right? Thinking about, hey, where am I taking my organization? What do I need to do? What is my vision and my mission? How am I going to get there? My vision is this. Picture it like this. Looking through goggles, right? And you're looking way out where you're going to go and where you're going to take your organization. That's your vision, right? The mission is how we're going to get there. If anybody's in here in the military, first off, I want to thank you for your service. Right? Yeah, amen to that. But the thing is this. The mission is how we're going to get there. So kind of think if we were on a mission and we say, hey, we're going to take this valley and we got to clear this valley out, right? That's our mission. So we know what each other's going to do, right? We know what each other's not going to do. We know the responsibilities. That's the mission. That's creating the mission of your organization. So you need a vision and you need a mission. And I'm telling you, business owners that spend time developing strategies for their business, right? They get further ahead than those who don't. And what will happen is this. We just see a lot of business owners are like, I don't have time. I don't have time. We're like, okay, let's start there. That's the first place we're going to start with you then. Let's do a time study. What? I remember Kevin brought that up in a board meeting. Have you ever done a time study? Everybody looked at him like, what are you time study? What's that? A study of time, studying your time. What do you do all day? So here's some good things to a good strategy, right? You need to defines the nature of the challenge. Then you need a guiding policy for dealing with that challenge. Oops. Come on. And then, come on now. There we go. Get back up here. There we go. A set of coherent actions to carry out the guiding policy. Right? So we need a plan. We need to know, hey, something's going to come up, right? How are we going to deal with that when it comes up? What is the policy that's going to get us through there? And this is what we like to use at TAB. They like to use the bicycle analogy, right? That personal vision is that front tire, right? That's what's going to guide you. That's what's going to swing you around. Okay, and that back, that's your company vision, is that back. That's the horsepower, right? When you need more horsepower to get up a hill or you're going down a hill, those are the two things that need to be, and they need to be in line, and guess what? Everybody needs to know them. And if you have a business partner, they especially need to know them. You guys need to agree on that. A lot of times we'll work with companies and they're offsetting. Their company goal or vision is, hey, I want to grow and I want to do this and I want to go, and then their personal goals, well, I want to only work 3 days a week. We're like, okay, those don't line up. You're out of alignment, right? You got to have the other way. Hey, no, we're going to grow and this is what we're going to do to get there. This is the personal vision and this is why we're doing it. We're working this hard so that when we reach the destination, then we're going to have that freedom that we're looking for. But understanding that will give your organization energy. Jack Welch says this, anybody can manage short, anybody can manage long. The balance to those two things is what management is. Now I want to tell you guys a story about Bethlehem Steel. Bethlehem Steel in the 30s, 40s, and 50s they generated all the steel in the United States, okay? Or the majority of it, okay? Built a lot of wealth through there. But one of the things, one of their factories was just underperforming, and they could not fix it. They tried everything. They brought in consultants. They changed management. They changed staff. They just could never get it to produce any better. Finally, one supervisor came in, and the morning shift was getting off. It had a morning shift and an evening shift. The morning shift was getting off, and he said, "Hey guys, how many pallets did we do today?" And the guy said, "We did 6." So he went over and he got a paint and he put a big 6 right by the time clock on the ground. So the evening shift started to show up, and they said, "Hey, what's that?" And they go, "Oh, that's how many pallets the day guys did." The next morning when the day guys got there, this is what happened. 6 was crossed off, 7 was then written. Guess what happened? The next day, it got up to 9. They got it up to 13, and that's the most it could do was 13 a shift. And that's what we call a KPI, a key performance indicator. It's a number that you come up with in your organization that means something. That not only when people see it, it moves them, it motivates them. Okay, another store has they're a chain of grocery stores, and up above where no of the clients know, there's a number up there. And that number is this: how many days have they gone without a slip and fall, without an incident, right? And so they all know through the organization, it goes up and up and up, and then it goes to 0. And guess what? When it goes to 0, they go back and say, all right, which store was it? Which store killed it for us, right? So they go back, and that's a key performance indicator. It's a number that when people look at, it drives them to do something. There's a book that I just started reading. It's called The Great Game of Business. And I don't know if you guys have read that. It's been around for quite a while. But it kind of ties into this. It's like, hey, what are some numbers we can look at that can make our business now exciting? And what can we tell everybody about it? That's the other thing is a lot of people want to hold their information and be quiet about it, right? What they want to do is they're afraid to share it with their employees. Hey, share it with your employees. Share your financials. Share, hey, this is what our costs are. This is how we make money as a business. And this is why. Let them understand the benefit of what that is to work for a great organization. But there's 2 kinds of key performance indicators. There's the leading indicators and there's the lagging indicators. The lagging indicators is like last month's financials. It's last month's sales. It's that kind of information. The leading indicators, that's where we talk about this. Bringing like suspects, right? Prospects, suspects, into prospects, into a lead, and turning them into a customer. So a leading indicator would be this: how many suspects do I got to put in the top of my funnel so that I can get them down through this process and become a customer? That would be a leading indicator. That's that leading activity. So once you know that number, right? When we first started, Kevin and I, we knew, hey, we had to meet with 25 people. 25 people, if we met them, would equal a new member. And so we're like, all right. Now we got to meet, so we can't do 25 a week because we don't want one customer a week, right? We need to double that. We need to triple that. And then you start working on, because you're indicating that, then what you do is you start to work on efficiencies. How do you get better? How do you turn that? How do you work on saying, okay, now how do we make our conversion factors better? But you only do that by looking at the numbers and knowing what those numbers are. And I think that's one of the things that the billionaire, I always call them the billionaire lessons. One of the things that they taught me is really looking at financials and having that board meeting. And when we start working with business owners, we always say, well, tell me about your board meeting. And they're like, well, we have a board meeting. I'm like, well, we meet all the time. I mean, I see my partners every day in the office. We talk. If there's an issue, we talk about it. Like, that's not a board meeting. A board meeting is something it's got an agenda, right? You're going to go through last board meeting's minutes. And in those minutes are going to be follow-up things that you agreed to with everybody in the board. Then you're going to go through financials. You're going to go through some of the KPIs. Then you're going to go through financials. Okay? And then you're going to go through anything that's corporate driven, right? Legal. You're going to go through, maybe some personnel changes that need to happen, benefits. That's what a board meeting looks like. But business owners that look at their business and run it like a business, they're the ones that succeed. So guess what? All owners will exit their business. Okay? Sorry to tell you guys that if you weren't thinking you weren't. But the question is that, so here we go. Retiring baby boomers outnumber those who reaching the age of 45 by 4,000 per day. And we see this a lot. We see succession planning going down to generations. We see it going to employees. We see business owners selling. So we see a lot of this. But here's what a lot of business owners say is this: my business is me and I am my business. There's no separating us. And this is what happens. So when you go to sell your business, and that's a lot of times when somebody, all right, I'm ready to sell my business. And then that first thing we say to them, okay, well, what is your business, right? What is your, how do you get new clients? Well, they're my friends. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know everybody. Well, we're buying you out, right? We're not buying you in. You want to leave, right? Once I write you a check. Yeah, well, okay. You got to have a system and a process for that, for employee development or for client development and then employee development. So what happens is this. We always start working with this, and this is why it's never too late to start working or never too early to start working on your exit strategy, right? Working on systems and processes, putting levels of things in place, putting people in place that are going to help you so that when somebody says, hey, yeah, it's time, I'm going to write you this check, and you're like, thank you, I'm out, and they come in and they go, hey, this is perfect. I read something about one guy. He would, every part of his strategic planning every year, here's what he would do. He'd put his company up for a soft sale. And the reason he put it for a soft sale, he saw what the drivers were for the price. They say, hey, we're going to pay you X percent. And the reason we're going to pay that is because you have this many customers, you have this many offices, and you have this much revenue, and this is your profit. He'd say, okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Then the next year, that would be part of his strategic plan. He'd say, okay, so I need to work on these elements of these value drivers in my organization. So the next year he puts it on the sale. Then he started looking around. He goes, well, who's going to buy my company? He goes, oh, well, that company's going to buy your company. And he was a sales organization, a real estate company. He said, okay, that's the company that's probably going to buy me. Okay, what's their commission schedule? So he changed next year. He changed all of his people's commission schedule to their commission schedule. Then he said, what accounting software do they use? Oh, they use this accounting software. Next year, changed his accounting software to their accounting software. Right? You see what he's doing? He's making himself more valuable. And he's making the transition a lot easier. He's making it to where he's going to be able to, they're going to come in and be like, geez, your employees are on our pay plan. You're using our accounting software. This is your marketing strategy. Dude, let's go. He got a higher multiple than anybody has ever gotten in the real estate business because of that. He made it more desirable to purchase. But he didn't just wake up one morning and start doing that. He spent years of his strategic planning working on that. So the elements of a good exit are this. The owner feels like they've been treated fairly during the exit process. They feel fairly compensated. They're at peace with their former employees. They've discovered a new sense of purpose outside their business. And again, we've had Bob Glazier spoken several times to our groups here, and we have that online also if you want to go and check that out. But he talks about succession planning. And this is a big one, right? Where all of a sudden these business owners, you sell your business and you're used to, people maybe returning your calls. Now they no longer return your calls. But also, what's the sense of purpose? So really starting to create a sense of purpose. And you want to exit on your own terms. Build a business that can be sold when and to whom you want. Give yourself enough time to prepare. And again, this is not in months, this is in years. Years to prepare your business. One of them here. Some of the other principles in the book that you guys can, and again, take it with you. It is our gift. Getting the right people on the bus in the right seats. This is huge. We helped a business owner do this recently, and he was like, oh my God, I can't believe how amazing that person is. I'm like, yeah, you just had him in the wrong role. It's not they were a bad person, we had to get rid of them. They're a great person, you just had them doing the wrong thing. Running your business like a franchise. Achieving the balance, and what does that mean like a franchise? Franchises, the alternative board is a franchise, and when we bought it, right, we get it, they had the recipe, right? But run your business like that. Document the processes. Put systems in place. Achieve a balance in your life between work and outside interests. You know, we know a good business owner, and they've got a great business when they can go, hey, yeah, what'd you do last? Oh, you know what? We decided to leave for a couple weeks. We went to Hawaii. Like, that guy's got a good organization. So this again, and I mentioned it in the video before, but it's an African proverb that we refer to a lot. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The thing that we have here is this, and we're just so big on community. We're so big on a business community. If you're in it alone, why? Why aren't you tied into the business community? Why aren't you getting help from other business owners, right? Why aren't you learning from maybe some of their mistakes? Learning some shortcuts that maybe they've created. It's very important. So the last question I have for you guys, and then I'm going to open it up to questions and answer any questions you guys have. What are the 2 best times to plant a tree? Anybody know those 2?
Today.
Say it again.
100 years ago and today.
100 years ago, I don't know if that might be like 1,000 years ago. I don't know the redwoods. They've been there a long time. That was the best time to plant a tree. Or today, right? A lot of people ask us, when do I start, right? Well, I'm not ready yet. Guess what? Today. If you haven't, you wish you would have started 5 years ago working on this business, but you didn't. So the other one is today. All right, questions? Questions? No questions. That's good. No, don't ask him a question. Stump the chump. All right, any questions? All right, let me ask you guys this question. Did you meet somebody new here tonight? Raise your hand if you met somebody new. I think everybody raised their hand, right? Yeah, that's what we loved about doing these events, okay? We do these every month. We like to invite business owners out. You get to meet other business owners, okay? One of the things that we are doing is our groups. Again, people ask, hey, all right, how do we get started? What happens? How does it work? What we do is we do a deep dive into your organization is the first thing that we do. We do an assessment. And remember, I kind of talked about that. We're going to look at, I don't care what industry you're in, you have planning, you have marketing, you have sales, you have operations, you have financials, okay? You have human resources, right? You have development of your staff. Those are things every organization has. So what we're doing is this. For this kind of the end of the year, what we start doing is working on what's called the year-end sequence and then the planning for next year. Part of that planning is a deep dive into organizations. Typically, we'll charge $2,500 to do that deep dive. What we're doing is, for you guys that came here tonight, if you want us to come and do that with you in December, it's a 2 to 3 hour deep dive with you and your organization, and we're really going to create a plan. It's $750. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know. We'll get you on our calendar. But really what we want to do is this. Our goal is this, by design or by default. We want next year to be by design. We want to identify what is that gap? Where should you be spending the least amount of time to make the greatest difference, right? And then once you've got that, now you put together a strategy, and now you know, okay, hey, here's the next step. I built a company, I built a part of this company to $100 million. Okay, and I'll never forget when we started. So I made the very first phone call. Hey, hi, I called the customer. Hi, I'm starting a new part of the company. They brought me in, and you're going on a vacation. What would you like to know before you're going on your vacation? They're like, well, I mean, we'd like to, maybe know what some of the activities are, or what the weather is. Okay, perfect. And I just wrote this down. So then I started hiring people in. And I'll never forget this. Everybody would always be like, oh, we don't have this system in place. We don't have this. We don't have this problem. And I'd always say, hey, guys, that's not the next phase. So what I like to do is this. Set up that vision with you and say, okay, this is where you want to be at the end of the year. Okay, you don't start, let's just say it's a 10-phase process to get to where you want to be by the end of next year. You don't start on phase 7. Right? You're starting on phase 1, but you have to identify what is phase 2. What is that critical step that you need to do? Right? And then when something else comes up and you go, oh yeah, but I wanted a TV commercial too. And I'm like, oh, whoa. TV commercial, we'll get there, but let's put that on stage 4, because that's when we're going to really start working on that marketing, all of the marketing message. What we do is we start to stage out that process, so then we know, hey, here's the next step we got to do. This is what's we're gonna. If we take this path, we're gonna end up reaching the goal that we've set for ourselves. All right. Any questions? Anybody? Yeah, Frank.
So when you say what's on your don't list, what kind of things are you talking about? Like,
You know what? Think about some of, just kind of think about what steals some of your time away, right? I would say this. I mean, again, for me, on my don't list is don't take the stupid checks to the bank. I mean, it literally is. It's really recognizing, and that's the thing. When you start thinking about it like this, you guys will see tomorrow when you go into work. When you talk about that, like, hey, all right, what could I be delegating or automating or eliminating out of my job, right? Don't get caught up on social media, and all of a sudden, 30 minutes went by, and you're like, oops. Frank, she goes, Frank. There you go, Frank. Yeah, but it's just, again, what steals your time away, and what is that platinum activity? That was a great question. Thank you, Frank. All right, any other question?
How do you time block your day, knowing like every important email, every call is
Yeah.
important,
Yeah.
right? For me as being a member.
Yeah.
I don't take every phone call, but like say if Frank calls me in the middle of the day, but he only
That's not important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So it's time. It really is time blocking. It's really going into your calendar and saying this. And again, we're the guy said it, and I thought it was weird when he said it, but then I've said it a bunch of times. We eat our own dog food. Okay. We practice what we preach. Just this week we were talking about, hey, we need more time in sales, in this sales zone. We're like, what do we? Alexis, can you just schedule this for all of us? Put it all on all of our calendars. And then we just hold those calendars true. So it really is time blocking is what's worked for us. Yeah, and then don't take that call. And those emails aren't that important. They will wait out of that time, then you go into it. But what happens is when you start to try to multitask, then all of a sudden you get done with the day and you go, what did I really accomplish today? One of the things Darren Hardy, here's a trick that he said. He goes, I write down 3 things a day that I'm going to get done. So I have a list of 1,000, but I just write 3 that I'm going to get done. And then he's like, now think about this week, right? This week, right? We got 15 things done, right? And it goes back to that multiplier, right? Now all of a sudden, in a year's time, you got over 500 things done. So, all right, any other questions? Anything? All right, I want to, again, thank you guys for all coming out. Again, I'm Patrick. We got Ricky, Kevon, and our Chief Coordinating Officer, Alexis. Thank you guys very much.
Y'all, thank you so much for coming out tonight. We're so grateful. If you guys have any questions, we're going to be around for a little bit.
What time is
Bar's
it?
still open. Network,
Oh, we got tons of time.
Good job. People, if you've already met somebody new, look at somebody else you've not yet met, and meet that person too while you're here.
I need some water.
All right? Have a wonderful night. Appreciate you.
Water.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, so 2 weeks we're doing the Are You Killing It?
Yeah, I'm there.
Where are we doing it at? Our office?
The studio.
In our studio?
Yep.
Let's do it in the back of the truck, the dump truck. Did Kevin tell you something? So Kevin, there's a, what is his? It doesn't matter. He's got Junkman or whatever he's got up in Reno. He used to be a client, but he's not our client anymore. But
Man, they're out here
yeah.
too.
Here.
Yeah, but I think it's a franchise. I know it's a franchise. Yeah, but that guy, yeah. So Kevin he was out. His wife was out throwing stuff, and you guys know that you get nice stuff sometimes. And so she's.
From my warehouse today.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, nice. So she's throwing the nice stuff in this one dumpster, right? And then she goes. So she throws something in there, and Kevin he hits the side of the dumpster and goes, "Hey, why are you throwing stuff on my house?" And she takes off running to go get her husband.
Oh, jeez.
And then we came around the corner. We're like, "Hey, we're just kidding. We're just kidding." It was pretty
You got
funny.
me thinking, right? Because my differential factor between me and the junk man is my trucks are 10% bigger. Like, got junk, my truck is 10%
Yeah.
bigger than this.
Yeah.
And we don't use that all the time,
When they
you know?
do the moves, that he should do something on the counter or something. That's
Yeah.
like your red rose.
Yeah.
Move box.
But you don't do
Yeah.
it because you don't listen.
I was working on it, and then I got
Because you don't
distracted.
listen.
I got distracted.
It's busy, right? You get busy. I mean, it is.
Yes, but that thing that makes you remember who the people
Yeah, yeah, and that's the key. The key is being memorable, right? So that when that they need to, or somebody says, "Hey, who did you use?" They're like, "Oh yeah, college." And you guys have a great name too. I think it's very.
And then I try to, you know, when I do all these networking things, I say, just call me Handsome Hunk Rob.
Yeah,
or
come
Papa
on.
Hunk.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
memorable.
yeah. No, it is. Very memorable.
I used to do the estimating, and then women would be like, "Oh, there's going to be old guys."
Yeah.
And what all these
They're like, wait a second. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're like, when's the hunks? When are the hunks coming with no shirts on?
Someone goes, I would hire you if you were the sluts. On
Yeah.
No, pound sluts.
If my wife is out of town, I definitely hire the college sites. Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
Did a great job.